Okay, so section 3.2 is about adding and subtracting decimals. So I wrote the rules for adding and subtracting fractions right here on the screen that you'll want to make sure that you copy these down. So it says to line up the decimal points and then add or subtract. You are going to want to bring your decimal point straight down in your answer. You're not going to count place values over, you're just going to bring it straight down for your answer. So we're going to look at a few problems here. So the first one up at the top here says 0.23 or 23 hundredths plus 4 and 5 tenths plus 20 and 32 hundredths. You're going to add those together, right? Because it says to do that. So I've already changed how it's written. Whoa, sorry. I've changed how it's written right here so you could see it. And I want you to see, let's see if I can make this go back up. Okay, that's good. Here we go. So we're going to add these together. I want you to see that I have lined up the decimal point, and my thing is not working anymore. There we go. Because I've lined up the decimal places right here. Clearly it's not the best line right there, but here we go. So I know that I'm going to bring this down straight in my answer, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that decimal point down. And I want you to see that if there's not a number in there, you can put a placeholder in if you feel like you need to, but 3 plus 0 is 3, plus 2 is 5, 2 and 5 is 7, 7 plus 3 is 10, carry my 1, and 0 and 1 is 1, 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 0 stays 5, and then 2, remember there's nothing up here, so we're just going to put 2 down. And so if I add those three numbers up here that we started with, I want you to see that we ended with 25 and 5 hundredths. Final answer. So line up the decimal places and add in each of the columns, carry, just like you have for years back in elementary school. All right, so this one as well is a subtraction problem here, but we're going to line up the decimal places and subtract. And so I want you to see that the decimal places are here. I'm going to bring the decimal point straight down into my answer. And then I'm going to subtract. So 2 minus 1 is 1, 7 minus 3 is 4, 6 minus 4 is 2, 9 minus 5 is 4, and 3 minus 0 is 3. So when I subtract, I end up with 34 and 241 thousandths. Final answer. Line them up, bring your decimal straight down, and then just subtract. You would have to borrow maybe if you needed to. You would borrow from the one next to it, just like you did in elementary school, okay? All right, so for this problem, we're talking about a budget. So you have $1,800.50 for your paycheck, and you need to pay these two bills over here, this first bill and second bill. They both need to be paid out of this check that you just got, and we want to know how much money is left at the end, okay? So we are going to set these up and we're just going to subtract, right? We're debiting, or we're taking money out of our account to pay for these bills. So I start with my bill, or how much money I have in my account, my check I guess is what I should call it, and I'm going to subtract or take away my first bill. I want you to see that I'm bringing my decimal straight down, and we're going to start with this. So I have $0, and I'm going to need to take away 3. I can't do that, so I'm going to borrow and make this, I'm going to add 10 to that other column, okay? So I have 10 minus 3 is 7, 4 minus 2 is 2. I move over, 0 minus 0 is 0, 0 minus 5 I cannot do, so I have to borrow and make that 7. When I bring it to the other column, I'm taking 10 to the other column. That's how this works. So 10 minus 5 is 5, 7 minus 0 is 7, and 1 minus 0 is 0. So after paying my electric bill, I still have $1,750.27 still in my bank account. So now I'm at a point where I need to take what's in my bank and I need to subtract my cell phone bill up here. So I need to line up my decimal points and subtract. I'm going to bring my decimal point down into my answer, and I'm going to start subtracting. I can't do this, so I need to borrow. I can't even borrow here, so I need to borrow 4, make this a 10. I need to mark it out and make it a 9 to be able to borrow and make that a 12. Okay, remember each time I get 10, so if I already had 2 right here and I borrowed 10 from it, I now have 12. So 12 minus 8, when I borrow that, let's see, is that 4? Yes, 4. 9 minus 0 is 9. 4 minus 7 I can't do, so I need to make this a 6 and make this a 14. 14 minus 7 is 7, and then 6 and 1 because there was nothing else to be brought down. Okay. So for this, I want you to see that this is money, so we need to make sure that my final answer is written in money. Okay. Is how much I have left. Okay, I have one last example that I want to show you, and this one is they give you a fraction and they want to add or subtract a decimal from it. Okay, and the instructions, you have to be very careful because they say do your work in fractions. Submit your answer in fraction form. So you could change that 1/3 into a decimal, but then you've got to work backwards and get your decimal out of a decimal into a fraction for your final answer. So that's the harder part. So for me, it's easier for me to read what I see and change it into a fraction and then be able to add what I have, the fractions. So what do I see? I see 6, and this is the 10ths position, so 6/10. 6 over 10 is my final fraction after I changed it out of the decimal form. Okay, so I need to add, and for me to be able to add, I have to have a common denominator. Remember, the denominators have to match when you add and subtract, and so I have a 10 here and a 3 here. So I need to multiply them together and I get 30. Multiplying the diagonal here and I get 18. Multiplying the diagonal here and I get 10. My denominators now match, so I'm going to bring my denominator straight over. I add 10 plus 18 and I get 28. That's great, except for I can simplify, and so I'm going to divide the top and bottom both by 2, and let's see, I end up with 14 over 15, and that will be my final answer. Why am I doing it in fraction answer? Because the instructions told me to. All right, so that's the end of 3.2. This is a very short homework. Short as in quick, easy to do. I guess I should show you one more just so you can see how to compare. But I want to make sure that you understand what we're doing here. This, they want to know which one's bigger. And you can't compare these unless they're both in decimal form or both in fraction form. Okay? This one's kind of a trick because this one's fairly easy because this is a whole number and a fraction, right? And this one has no whole number. So anything with a whole number is bigger. But if you really wanted to solve this problem, you could put them both into decimal because it's easier to put them into decimal form. So I would take 9 divided by 7. Oh, I lied. The numerator's bigger. Good grief. Let me slow myself down here. This was a little misleading. I confused myself. This could be a mixed number because the top number is bigger, right? So it's an improper fraction. So for us to actually compare, we need to put 9 divided by 7 in our calculator to be able to work this problem out. And so let's see. 7 goes into 9 one time, but I want to know what the decimal part of it is, not the fraction part. So 9 divided by 7 gives me 1.2857. 1.42857. Okay, it just keeps going. But this one I didn't have anything. This one is just 1.28. So if I felt like I wanted to write out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At that point, we could ignore the ones, right, because they match, and then we're really just comparing this 2, 8, 5, 7, 1, whatever, and then 2, 8, all zeros. So if I'm comparing those two huge numbers, which one's bigger? Well, 28 and 28 are the same, but this one's got numbers and this one's got zeros. So clearly the one with numbers is going to be the bigger one. So if I'm comparing, this greater than symbol is going to be my final answer. So what I would say is put them both in the same format and then compare. So put them both in decimal form for you to be able to see which one's bigger.